Hello and welcome. I'm Kriti Mehta and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. We extend our viewers a very happy New Year wishes. For now, let's start with a check of the top headlines this hour. The United States has carried out strikes against 3 vessels in international waters that were suspected of narco trafficking. According to the U.S. Southern Command, the vessels were traveling as a convoy. U.S. President Donald Trump has announced the withdrawal of National Guard troops from Portland, Chicago and Los Angeles, hints at stronger comeback in the future. Russian President Vladimir Putin voiced his confidence on victory in Ukraine, while his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky warned that peace cannot come at any cost in their respective New Year's addresses to their countries. Ex-world champion boxer Anthony Joshua has been released from hospital in Lagos in Nigeria after being treated for injuries sustained in a car crash that killed 2 others. Separatists from Yemen's Southern Transitional Council announced an agreement to deploy government forces in areas they have recently seized. Taiwanese President Lai Ching-te vows to defend the sovereignty of the island in a New Year's speech after China carried out military drills. Lai said he will steadfastly defend national sovereignty in a televised address from the presidential office. The U.S. government has granted an annual license to Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing to import U.S. chip manufacturing equipment with facilities in Nanjing in China, as per the chip maker. Elon Musk's brain implant company Neuralink will start high-volume production of brain-computer interface devices and move to an entirely automated surgical procedure in 2026, Musk said in a post on X. Alright, viewers, let's start with the top focus. Now, U.S. President Donald Trump has joined criticism of Hollywood star George Clooney's new French passport. In a Truth Social post, Trump hailed the development as good news, calling the actor and his wife the worst political prognosticators of all time. This comes as Clooney, his wife Amal and their 2 children have reportedly become French citizens. The family received their passports under an official decree granting naturalization for distinguished service to France. The decision comes as France toughens language requirements for new citizen applicants starting January 1st. Clooney speaks limited French despite taking lessons, while his wife Amal speaks the language fluently. French officials said the couple followed all legal procedures, including security checks and interviews. Now, joining me in this discussion is Satoru Nagao. He's a fellow at the Hudson Institute and joins us from Tokyo. Dr. Nagao, thank you very much for joining me, and we wish you a very happy New Year on behalf of NewsX World. How do you see this development and Trump's reaction, and why do you think in the first place did Clooney and wife take this decision?
Happy New Year. Thank you very much for inviting me again. In this case, the most important thing is loyalty. Because George Clooney looks like a political activist who joined the movement of the Democrats and criticized President Trump very fluently. Despite this, that kind of character tried to get another nationality, whose criticism is the matter. As an American, he criticized President Trump is understandable for the American voters. But if he criticized President Trump as a French, this is criticism from the foreign country.
Yeah.
So that's why the political message demands the loyalty of their nationals. That's why this is a matter. So, and in case of the French nationals, indeed, many people want to get But George Clooney is influential character. That's why relatively easy to get. That is another matter. And so that's why, because he is elite, he can get such kind of the privileges despite other people cannot get. That kind of the image itself is a little bit political too. So that's why one thing is loyalty, another thing is elite or not, the gap between two. So these two are quite controversial in this case.
Would you know if Clooney has also renounced his US citizenship while taking up the French?
You're coming to the screen.
No, I think the dual citizen, I think. But at the same time, as an American, he can criticize the American government. But as a French, he should not criticize American government.
Yeah.
So that's why this is related with loyalty. And only elite people can get to dual citizenship because of their influence. Because despite he cannot speak French well, despite this he can get the influence because of he is influential guy. So that's why view from the more poor situation people, this is unfair. So that's why something politically this is not good.
Yeah, sure, but why is Trump so concerned and he's gone on to, put out all those messages on social media, calling him not even a big star at all, when he still maintains US citizenship?
Yeah, of course he will maintain, I think, but view from the President Trump, this is a good chance to criticize Democrat supporters. Because the Democrat supporter is, of course, enemy of him. And in this case, they failed themselves. So that's why this is the chance for the President Trump to criticize. Because this loyalty issue or the gap between elite and poor, so this both view from both cases, this action of the George Clooney is failure as politics. So that's why the view from the rival, view from the President Trump, this is a good chance to criticize him.
All right, thanks then, Dr. Nagao, for joining me in this discussion. And moving ahead, viewers. Now, news coming in from New York, where Zohran Mamdani has taken his oath of office as the mayor of New York City in a ceremony held at the Old City Hall subway station. This makes Mamdani the first African-born mayor of New York and the youngest mayor since 1892. Let's listen into his message.
For me, raise your right hand. I, Zohran Kwame Mamdani,
Zohran Kwame Mamdani,
do solemnly swear
that
I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Charter of the City of New York,
and the Charter of the City of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge
the
duties of the office of the Mayor of the City of New York, according to the best of my ability. So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. Mayor.
And we move ahead now. China will impose additional 55% tariffs on beef imports from several countries, including Brazil, Australia, and the United States. The Chinese Commerce Ministry announced that the tariffs will apply when shipments exceed annual quotas set for each exporter. The measures will take effect from today and remain in place for 3 years. China has described the levies as safeguards designed to protect domestic producers, with tariffs to be gradually relaxed over time. The decision comes after beef prices in China declined due to oversupply and the slowing demand. Meanwhile, imports have surged, which directly impact local producers. Moreover, China has also announced the suspension of part of a free trade agreement with Australia covering beef, stressing that the measure is temporary and not intended to restrict normal trade. Brazil, the world's largest meat exporter, said it will work with China bilaterally and through the WTO to mitigate the impact of the new tariffs. Joining me in this discussion is Dr. Ajay Dua, who is former Secretary of Commerce and senior economist and joins us from New Delhi. Thank you very much, Dr. Dua. Wish you a very happy New Year. What's your assessment of these tariffs?
Happy New Year to you as well. I think the measure taken by the Chinese government is clearly a highly protective measure. If the US is worried about protecting its agriculture, so is China. China found that the high beef imports into its territory were bringing down the price and not leaving it remunerative enough for its own producers, and at the same time China wants to send a message down to the United States saying, if you can play your game, so can we, and probably we do a little more through greater weaponization than you are capable of doing or you've been resorting to. So this is yet another measure of demonstration of that, saying yes, we do want to import high quality beef, but at the same time you will play by our rule, saying 164,000 tons is what we will allow during a year. Anything more than that will attract a penal duty of 55%. By doing so, China has also catered to the other suppliers. Australia, you mentioned just now, is which big supplier of beef to China. Also, it has been impacted, but not so much. So all that I'm trying to convey at this point of time is that the US is not going to be able to have its own say vis-a-vis China in future, particularly if it does not go by what it had agreed itself. When the presidents of the two countries had met in October last, that for a year we will not play around with tariffs of each other's country and not impose trade barriers. But if President Trump resorts to go beyond it, China can hit back, and this is a demonstration of that.
Yeah. Would you also say that this is not really targeting any country per se, as China is saying, because it has already extended the beef imports probe for 2 years now?
That's right. China is not really, through one item beef imports, not really hitting the United States as strongly as probably the US beef suppliers might conceive it to be. But it is sending a message to the administration saying, if the game of not impacting one another has to be played to the hilt, as was agreed to when the two presidents had met in Korea in October, South Korea, it means you do not play around with certain duties to us or upon us, and we would not do it. So this is a signal as well, besides their own interest in protecting their farmers.
Sure. Well, thanks then for your perspective, Dr. Dua, but do continue to stay on with me. Because let's also tell you that US has granted a majority Russian-owned Serbian oil company a temporary reprieve from sanctions targeting Russia's invasion of Ukraine. US sanctions targeting Serbia's NIS as part of curbs on Russia's energy sector forced the shutdown of Serbia's only oil refinery, which meets about 80% of national fuel demand. The measures have landed heavily in Serbia, a close Kremlin ally and one of the few European states that has not imposed sanctions on Russia over the Ukraine war. Meanwhile, the Serbian energy minister has said that NIS has obtained a license from US Office of Foreign Assets Control, allowing Nice to continue operations until January 23, and this means that Panchevo refinery will be able to resume operation after 13 days. Alright, I request Dr. Dua to join me back with his comment on this. How do you see this waiver coming in at a time when peace dialogue is also being held, and there is also a message that has gone out to the US from Russia over Trump's aggression in Caribbean and in Venezuela?
The measure of exempting a large Serbian oil refiner, I think will go down rather well, both with Russia as well as with Serbia, a very close ally of Russia. I think at the present juncture, President Trump is more involved in persuading Russia to agree to the ceasefire, earlier the 28-point plan, and now reduced to 20-point plan, and not irk Russia more than it is necessary, with his higher priority being on becoming the peace broker, or being recognized as the peace broker in this major war, which has lasted almost 4 years. If Russia has supported Serbia, which it would have, I think it is a political concession being made by President Trump's administration to Russia, saying that we could have done that, we had thought of doing it, but because we are both trying to reconcile the situation in Ukraine and come to a solution, we would go along with what you are requesting us. If you would recall that the two large Russian oil companies, Rosneft as well as Lukoil, stand already sanctioned. And that has caused, or did cause, a fair amount of problems for Russia when it found that, I think it's already become effective on 23rd of November or so, the sanctions, the Russian president won't have been very pleased with Trump or his intention to broker peace between Ukraine and Russia, even though the president, if I might say, President Trump's plan was highly pro-Russia, that territories be acceded by a sovereign nation to another nation, besides restrictions upon its future security arrangements, etc., being imposed. Yet, Russia didn't like that kind of those sanctions, and so in order to create a congenial environment for an agreement, it seems that the United States has conceded what Serbia's current requirement is. And for Serbia, you might also know that this is a very big oil refinery, and it does affect its economics as well as the employment situation in that country. Back to you. Hello.
Ask you that how long will this reprieve be able to help the country with its energy issues, because is it not likely for Washington to reinforce the sanctions after this stipulated time period?
I think so. The situation could drastically change if the Ukraine war gets stopped, or there is a sort of a ceasefire gets effected. Then the US would not be interested in the sanctions continuing either upon Russia or upon Serbia. Then it's going to be more of one hobby between the two of them to look at other matters of interest, including whether the US should place its troops in Ukraine as requested by President Zelensky, reportedly by President Zelensky a couple of days ago, saying not only European troops, but even the US troops should remain in his territory, Ukraine, if the ceasefire gets affected as a future protection against ingress by Russia.
All right, thanks then Dr. Dua for joining me in this discussion and giving us your perspective. And let's move ahead, viewers. Now rail traffic through the Channel Tunnel has now resumed after an electrical failure stranded passengers and caused multiple delays there. Eurostar cancelled 2 London-Paris trains and warned of knock-on impacts ahead of New Year's Eve. Travellers described nightmares on powerless trains with no electricity, water, heating or Wi-Fi, some trapped until early Wednesday morning. Eurostar said the problem was caused by an overhead line falling on a train near the entrance to the Channel Tunnel, with additional issues with rail infrastructure overnight. Passengers incurred extra costs and delays, with some forced to rebook hotels and miss events. Eurostar warned of further possible last-minute cancellations. The Channel Tunnel carries heavy passenger and vehicle traffic, and Eurostar faces growing competition from new rivals like Trenitalia and Richard Branson's proposed service. Moving ahead, the Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company TSMC has received a US export license to import chip manufacturing equipment to its Nanjing facility in China. The license allows TSMC to receive US export controlled items without seeking individual vendor permits. This move ensures that operations and product deliveries in Nanjing remain uninterrupted. South Korea's Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix have also received similar US import licenses. The license comes after previous exemptions from US chip export restrictions expired on December 31. TSMC's Nanjing plant makes 16 nanometer and other mature node chips and generated about 2.4% of the company's total revenue in 2024. The company also operates a chip making facility in Shanghai. That's all we have time for. Do keep watching NewsX World for more news and updates from around the world.